Sankirtan ki
Jai.
Let us welcome His Holiness Bhakti Vriksha Maharaj to our program this evening. At least to my knowledge, this is the third class that he is giving today. I don't know what is beyond that. Last 2 hours he was on an online class, and then he was kind enough, traveling all the way here and then being with us, and he has to go back also. Let's take full advantage. So Maharaj asked me what is the topic. Yesterday we heard from Mukunda Datta Prabhu, so in continuation of that, I requested Maharaj to speak.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So this evening then we're continuing Nectar of Instruction. This is text number 4. Dadati pratigrinati
Dadati pratigrinati.
Guyamakyati pritchati
Guyamakyati pritchati.
Bhunte bhujayate chaiva
Bhunte bhujayate chaiva.
Sadvidam pritilakshanam
Sadvidam pritilakshanam.
Some of you must know this verse, you can chant.
Dadati pratigrinati. Guhyamakyati pritchati. Bhunte bhujayate chaiva. Sadvidam pritilakshanam.
Dadati pratigrinati.
Dadati pratigrinati.
Guhyamahyati prachati.
Guhyamakyati pritchati.
Te bhojayate cheva.
Bhunte bhujayate chaiva.
Satvitam priti lakshanam.
Sadvidam pritilakshanam.
Dadati
Dadati
gives charity.
gives charity.
Pratigrinati
Pratigrinati
accepts in return.
accepts in return.
Guyam confidential topics.
Confidential topics.
Akyati
Akyati
explains.
explains.
Prachati
Prachati
inquires.
inquires.
Bhunktesh eats.
Eats.
Bhojayate
Bhojayate
feeds.
feeds.
Cha
Cha
also.
also.
Eva
Eva
certainly.
certainly.
Satya vidham
Satyavanam
six kinds.
6 kinds.
Priti
Priti
of love.
of love.
Lakshanam
Lakshanam
symptoms.
symptoms.
Translation. Offering gifts in charity, accepting charitable gifts, revealing one's mind in confidence, inquiring confidentially, accepting prasad, and offering prasad are the 6 symptoms of love shared by one devotee and another. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In this verse, Srila Rupa Goswami explains how to perform devotional activities in the association of other devotees. There are 6 kinds of activities. 1. Giving charity to the devotee. 2. Accepting from the devotee whatever they may offer in return. 3. Opening one's mind to the devotees. 4. Inquiring from them about the confidential service of the Lord. 5. Honoring prasadam or spiritual food given by the devotees, and the feeding of the devotees with prasad. And experienced devotee explains and an inexperienced devotee learns from him. This is Guyamakyati Princhati. When a devotee distributes prasadam, remnants of food offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in order to maintain our spirit of devotional service, we must accept this prasad as the Lord's grace, received through the pure devotees. We should also invite pure devotees to our home, offer them prasad, and be prepared to please them in all respects. This is Bhunktesh Bojayate Chaiva. Even in ordinary social functions, there are 6 types of dealings between 2 loving friends. 6 types of dealings between 2 loving friends are absolutely necessary. For instance, when businessman wishes to contact another businessman, he arranges a feast in a hotel, and over the feast openly expresses what he wishes to do. He then inquires from his business friend how he should act, and sometimes presents are exchanged. Thus, whenever there is a dealing of priti or love in intimate dealings, these 6 activities are executed. In the previous verse, Srila Rupa Goswami advised that one should renounce worldly association and keep company with the devotees, Sangat Shangayate Satovrite. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness has been established to facilitate these 6 kinds of loving exchanges between devotees. This society was started single-handedly, but because people are coming forward and dealing with the give-and-take policy, the society is now expanding all over the world. We're glad that people are donating very liberally to the development of our society's activities, and people are also eagerly accepting whatever humble contributions we are giving them in the shape of books and magazines, dealing strictly with the subject matter of Krishna consciousness. We sometimes hold Hare Krishna festivals and invite like members and friends to participate in the feasting by accepting prasadam. Although most of the members come from the higher range of society, they nonetheless come and take whatever little prasad we're able to offer them. Sometimes the members and supporters inquire very confidentially about the methods of performing devotional service, and we try to explain this. In this way, our society is successfully spreading all over the world, and the ingredient and the intelligentsia of all countries is gradually appreciating our Krishna conscious activities. The life of the Krishna conscious society is nourished by these 6 types of loving exchange among the members. Therefore, people must be given the chance to associate with the devotees of ISKCON, because simply by reciprocating in the 6 ways mentioned above, an ordinary man can fully revive his dormant Krishna consciousness. In Bhagavad Gita 2:62, it is stated, Sangat Sanjayate Kama. One's desires and ambitions develop according to the company one keeps. It is often said that a man is known by his company, and an ordinary man associates with devotees, he will certainly develop his dormant Krishna consciousness. The understanding of Krishna consciousness is innate in every living entity, and it is already developed to some extent when the living entity takes a human body. It is said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila chapter 22, text 107, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Satya Kabunaye Shravanadi Shudachite Kore Hudai. Pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of living entities. It is not something to be gained from another source. When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, the living entity naturally awakens. Since Krishna consciousness is inherent in every living entity, everyone should be given a chance to hear about Krishna. Simply by hearing and chanting Sat Shravanam Kirtanam, one's heart is directly purified, and one's original Krishna consciousness is immediately awakened. Krishna consciousness is not artificially imposed upon the heart. It is already there. When one chants the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the heart is cleansed of all material contamination. In the first stanza of Sri Shikshastikam, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Chaito Dharmanamarjanam Bhavamahadavami Nirvapanam Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vidaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Budivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Sabalam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. All glories to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is a prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. It's quite a long purport. It will take some time to go through the whole thing. I think we've already got some topics we can speak about. Yeah. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadamtikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yata Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavansya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sadhanam Gunatam Vidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sadhana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vidamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Shabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Veshakarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this book, Nectar of Instruction, is a very valuable book for the devotees. Actually, it was discovered by Bhaktivinoda Thakur when he was visiting the home of a renowned Vaishnava in Vrindavan. He was going through the man's library and he came across a copy of Upadesh Amrita by Rupa Goswami. And when Bhaktivinoda Thakur found it, he was joyful. He said, this book will bring joy to the lives of the Vaishnavas. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur arranged to get the book copied. And then later on, Bhaktivinoda Thakur also wrote his commentary on the book. And then that was continued by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And then our own Srila Prabhupada also took it up as well to present this book. It's certainly very important for us as devotees. The Upadeshamrita and the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu are similar in nature. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is a more expansive presentation of the Krishna conscious philosophy, and the Upadeshamrita is more condensed form, but certainly very, very important. When the book was first published, the managers of the BBT were thinking to just produce a few copies because they thought, oh, it's only for very advanced devotees because it speaks about Radha Kund. But when they told Srila Prabhupada how they were going to print 2,000, Prabhupada said, what? He said, no. He said, this book is for mass distribution. So the devotee said, but Prabhupada, isn't this just for advanced devotees? And Prabhupada said, no, not at all. He said, this book is very practical for all the devotees. So Prabhupada wanted the book mass distributed. So very important here, you can see practical instructions given here in this verse about relationships between devotees. Very important, our society, that we need to have nice, loving relationships. We need to preserve that mood among the devotees, to have that nice feeling for each other and caring for each other. I remember some time back we were doing a thing, reuniting Prabhupada's family. You know, I don't know, how did we ever become disunited, you know? Maybe we were lacking loving relationships. Certainly, if there's always some loving relationships, then it will keep people always in a favorable mood to Krishna consciousness. One of the problems which we face is sometimes devotees become critical of the Krishna consciousness movement. And certainly, nice relationships, they can really help to change that conception. So, what are these relationships? They're described here by Rupa Goswami, offering gifts and presenting charitable gifts, offering prasadam, accepting prasadam. These two items especially, these four items rather, they're very easily done, not very difficult for us. Prabhupada himself, when he first would go back to India, after coming back from India, he brought presents for the devotees. And he would give each different devotees different presents. He'd bring a sari for one girl, and another devotee got a big bag, and different things like that, little gifts Prabhupada would give just to, and then we're creating a nice mood with the devotees, developing that loving feeling. You know, Prabhupada gave you something, you know, you really treasure it, you know. That Prabhupada gave me this, you know. It'd be very dear to you. And of course, devotees, we always like to give Prabhupada things. When Prabhupada would come, we would try to give something, you know, somebody would make some sweets for Prabhupada, and somebody would knit something for Prabhupada, somebody would bring maybe socks or a hat for Prabhupada. And Prabhupada would, you know, sometimes, sometimes he would use them and sometimes not. But usually he would be gracious. Upendra Prabhu was a one devotee. He was a personal servant of Srila Prabhupada. And he describes how when he got initiated, he gave some presents to Prabhupada. He gave Prabhupada like some piece of carpet which he had and a blanket which he had. He gave them to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada looked at them and said, "Oh, these are useless." You know, Prabhupada just was not very impressed with them. But then Apandra said later on, he saw that Prabhupada used them, and he put them on the floor for people to sit on, things like that. So Apandra was appreciating that Prabhupada was using something which he'd given. And Prabhupada liked to see devotees distribute prasadam. It was very important to Prabhupada. One time Prabhupada was in, maybe it was up at the Golden Temple where the Sikhs have up in Punjab. Anyway, he saw prasadam being distributed. And he said, "Oh, this is a very spiritual program to see them distribute." You know, that they had the system, people could sit down and eat, and the people who were serving would come by and they'd put one chapati on top of another chapati, and you know, as fast as you could eat, they'd be bringing more chapatis and putting more dal onto your plate. So Prabhupada said, very nice program. And then Srila Prabhupada in 1977, which was Srila Prabhupada's final year on the planet, Prabhupada sent a letter to all the temples of the world, and he told them that whenever guests come, there must be prasadam. You have to give prasadam to everyone. He said, you cannot say that nothing is ready. He said, you have to keep prasadam ready for people when they come. And he said, Krishna is not a poor man. He will provide for you. And Prabhupada even said what he wanted. He said there should be halava, there should be pakora, should be a little sabji, puri, like that. And Prabhupada he had this letter sent to all the temples around the world. He said, nobody should ever be told there's no prasadam. So anyway, this was Prabhupada's idea of the Krishna consciousness movement, that we have to distribute prasadam, and Prabhupada was always concerned about the quality of the prasadam as well. You know, he would always check on it. I remember in London, we had a program in London, 1971. I joined 1971. Anyway, we had a big program. What happened was we rented a big hall, a town hall, in a suburb of London, and we were a very small society at that time, 1971. When I joined, there were 20 devotees, about 20 devotees. There were two ladies, one was French and one was American. We didn't even have any English women there, although it was London, but one French lady, Mundakini, and one American lady, Aditi, was there. So, and all young men as well. You know, I was 21. I was one of the older ones. You know, so it was really pioneering days. You know, we were a new group, and we didn't have a lot of support. But Prabhupada was coming, and we always arranged programs for Prabhupada. And we rented this big town hall, which was not very expensive. You know, town halls you could usually get, in those days you could get them quite cheaply. So we put on a big program for Prabhupada, and Prabhupada wanted prasadam distributed. And Prabhupada said, bring me a plate, I want to see what you're distributing. And Prabhupada would taste it and remark if he thought it was good or not, you know. And at that time he said it was good, yeah. It had been made by one Hindu family they had made it and brought it for distribution. Prabhupada was satisfied. And so anyway, Prabhupada was very concerned about prasadam, certainly. Another time, I was in Calcutta, and it must have been like 1976 or 75. I was in Calcutta then. Maybe most of you were not born, no? Anyway, Calcutta, we were in Albert Road, and one afternoon, Prabhupada said, bring me some fruit, I want to see the fruit offering. You know, every afternoon they will offer fruits to the deity, 4:30 and 4 o'clock, and wake up the deity and offer fruit. So Prabhupada asked the servant, bring me the fruit, let me see what fruits they're offering to the deities. So Prabhupada took some, he looked at the fruits, he tasted some, and he said, who has purchased this fruit? And the devotee said, oh, it was purchased by Debu Prabhupada. Debu was a Bengali man, you know, Debu, you can understand Bengali, right? The Bengali name. And he was about mid-20s or so, you know, and maybe he was a little older, maybe 30. Anyway, he purchased the fruit. And Prabhupada said, tell Debu to come here. So Debu went in, offered his obeisances to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada looked at him and said, you're Bengali? You don't know how to buy fruit? Prabhupada, he said, you know, these fruits which you purchase for the deities, they're not fit for offering. Prabhupada, he was very particular about things, you know, what he wanted. And prasadam should be first class, you know, you offer something to the deities, and Prabhupada really expected it to be good, you know, it should be right. So, you know, Debu got, you know, I'm not buying any fruit tomorrow. Yeah. It's a bit like, you know, Krishna had a headache and he wanted the dust from the devotees, you know. Yeah. Anyway, another time, they gave, Prabhupada was in Los Angeles, and they gave Prabhupada some of the sweets which they'd made there in Los Angeles. And Prabhupada said, what is this? What kind of sweet? It was made with some marzipan. You know what marzipan is? You have that in India? Huh? You know Maraji? Huh? No? Anyway, they have this thing called marzipan. It's, I don't know what it's made from, but it's common in the West, you know, marzipan. They use it. Huh?
It's sugar and corn flour.
Sugar and corn flour. Corn flour.
Oh, okay. So anyway, it's quite sweet, yeah. So they had this sweet made with marzipan. Prabhupada said, what is this, you know? He said, why don't you make the sweets I've taught you? He said, I taught you Bengali sweets, you know? You know, you should make the Bengali sweets, not these Western concoctions, you know, using things like marzipan and whatever. So Prabhupada was very concerned, especially cooking puris, you know, sometimes the devotees would have a difficult time cooking puris and they didn't make the puris right. And Prabhupada would get upset. He was concerned, you know, because he taught us how to cook and he liked us to do things right. So offering prasadam, you're cooking for the pleasure of Krishna. So it should be very nice, you know. And Prabhupada was very concerned that, you know, we'd make our best efforts to cook nicely and offer the best for Krishna. And similarly, flowers, you know, the flowers, when we offered flowers to the deity, one temple, up in Canada, I think it was, they were offering flowers on the deity, and Prabhupada said, these flowers are all withered. I said, why you put these flowers on the deity? I was in Europe just recently, and I hadn't been in Europe for a long time. Anyway, I was kind of surprised to see the temple. The deities, they only get flowers 1 day a week, because flowers in Europe are just so expensive. They just cannot afford to buy flowers. In countries like Switzerland or Holland and so on, they have some deities. They get flowers on the weekend, but during the week they don't decorate the deities with flowers. They change the dress every day, but they don't put flowers on because they just cannot afford it. Their budget just does not allow. So it's such an expense. Anyway, certainly we do like to offer nice things to the deities. One of the luxuries of being in India, I see everywhere they have flowers. It's so pleasing after being in Europe. And Japan is also a bit like that. Kavi Chandra Swami, who goes to Japan, I don't go to Japan, but he told me in Japan also, difficult to get flowers, they're so expensive. I remember when I joined the movement, as I was saying in the movement, in the beginning we were very poor, we did not have a lot of funds. So when we would do Guru Puja, we didn't get a whole flower to offer, we would just offer a petal. You know, you'd be given a petal or something to offer to Prabhupada. Anyway, that was the mood, that was how our service to Krishna. We want to offer nice things to Krishna. So offering gifts and accepting charitable gifts. Prabhupada said, you know, just like when Prabhupada opened the Krishna consciousness movement in New York, 26 Second Avenue, sometimes the prasadam would just be one apple, and he would cut the apple into pieces and he'd give everyone a piece of apple. You know, that was the prasadam. That was the beginning of the Krishna consciousness movement. Sometimes, of course, he would cook a feast, but sometimes it would just be one apple would be cut up and divided. So it's according to the time and circumstances. What's important is the mood, the offering. Try to please Krishna. So we do like to offer nice prasadam for people. It is important for our Krishna consciousness movement. We're supposed to be known as the kitchen religion, right? We spend a lot of time in the kitchen cooking for Krishna. So the cooking should be very nice, very satisfying and pleasing, nourishing. So we do try our best. We have regular cooking classes, trying to teach people, you know, show people how you can cook nice vegetarian dishes. Srila Prabhupada used prasadam to preach to people. Some time back, there was a scientific conference. The Bhaktivedanta Institute had organized a scientific conference, and Prabhupada had met with one of the scientists who had come for the program. So Prabhupada was preaching to him, and the scientist was listening, and you know, he wasn't exactly receptive, but you know, he was sort of okay, you know, he wasn't rejecting everything. But while they were talking, a devotee brought in a plate of Mahaprasadam. And Prabhupada took the plate and said to the scientist, he said, "This is for you." And the scientist, you know, yeah, you know, okay, you know. And he began to eat, you know, and it was a nice Mahaprasadam, you know, a lot of nice, you know, what's it, Parmesan, different cheesecake and different things, so many nice things, tasty dishes were there. And the scientist was, you know, he was enjoying it, you know, he was eating it. And Prabhupada kept preaching. And as Prabhupada kept preaching, the scientist was eating the prasadam, and he was becoming more and more enlivened, you know, he was really enjoying the prasadam. And not only, now he was not arguing, now he was finding points to agree with Prabhupada. So Prabhupada was showing us this is how you preach to these kind of people, you see. Prasadam, our secret weapon, very important. And another scientist who'd been at the conference, he was riding in the car and one of the devotees was escorting him to the airport. And so he was asking the professor, well, professor, what did you think of the conference? And the professor, he was like a Nobel Prize winner, he was a big man. He said, the most amazing thing I've learned at the conference, I've learned you can be satisfied on a vegetarian diet. So, these are some examples of how we can use prasadam in our preaching, very, very important for us, very powerful. So Prabhupada certainly used prasadam very nicely, and he made a lot of devotees by his prasadam. It's certainly very important for us. And we don't want to compromise. Sometimes, people say, oh, I remember when the devotees first came, they used to cook mal pakora and so many nice dishes, but now they just have soybean and something, tofu, and they don't have the dishes like what they used to make in the beginning. But we shouldn't lower the standard, we should try to keep up the standard, even though we're cooking for maybe many more people than ever, huge numbers of people you're cooking for. We do like to have nice, satisfying prasadam for the devotees. And if people become attracted to the prasadam, they'll never give up Krishna consciousness. So prasadam is important, and offering gifts also, giving nice little gifts, and simple things. It doesn't have to be something elaborate, whatever little thing we have, we'd like to give it to Prabhupada, or we sometimes offer gifts to the deities. And not only to Prabhupada and to the deities, but to devotees, giving things to the devotees. It's so pleasing for them, they appreciate so much. Some ordinary devotee, you give them something, they feel, wow, somebody gave me this, nobody ever gave me anything. Then all of a sudden somebody comes and gives you something, you feel overwhelmed. You feel so much gratitude to them for it. So it's important for us to keep these relationships, that we're humans, and humans, we do need relationships. We need to keep these relationships and keep them loving relationships, If they're not loving, it can become a bitter relationship, or a cold relationship, impersonal relationship, which is what we don't want. Everything should be very personal. And then also, inquiring confidentially and revealing our mind in confidence. This is important for us, all of us as devotees, that we do need to have devotees who we can go to, who we can reveal our minds to. If maybe that we're having some doubts. One devotee was doing an online class recently, and she was teaching Bhagavad Gita, and every time at the end there'd be so many doubts from people. So doubts are there, but we have to deal with these doubts, right? We have to remove these doubts. And we need to have devotees who are very strong in Krishna consciousness, who can take away these doubts from our minds. It's important for us. I was listening to one lecture by His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami. Tamal Krishna Goswami, he had some health problems, you know, he had some cancer before he passed away in the road accident. He did have health issues. So anyway, he was giving initiation to some people, and he was saying to them, tell me the names of 3 people who you can go to, who you will take as your mentor and who will guide you and help you in Krishna consciousness. And so the devotee said 3 names of senior devotees. He said, very good, yes. And you know, he was making the point that you can't just simply depend always on your Diksha Guru to be there all the time. You cannot just depend on the Diksha Guru for your guidance. We have to have people who we can approach regularly, who are easily accessible for us, that we can go with and be with them and share with them. What problems are you having personally? What's your trouble? How is your situation? It's very important for us. And of course, some temples like Chaupati, like Radhanath Swami's temples, they do encourage like that. They have a structured mentor system, getting devotees to take shelter of senior Vaishnavas and meeting regularly with them, and somebody who knows about their situation. It's important that somebody is thinking about you, that if you don't come to the temple, somebody should be thinking, what happened? Why they didn't come? Why are they not here? Especially a big festival. Somebody doesn't show up for the big festival, we should wonder what's going on. They didn't come. They haven't come for the Sunday program for so many weeks. What's going on? You know, and if somebody then calls you up and said, I haven't seen you for a while, what's wrong? Are you okay? Then you appreciate it, you know? So that kind of relationship is very important for us, that somebody is there, they're caring about you, and that, you know, they want to know, are you okay? Is everything all right? Anything I can do to help you? What's happening? It's important for all of us that we've got somebody we can go to. There's somebody who cares about us. So Prabhupada talks in the purport, he goes on and he talks about George Harrison, how George Harrison had donated for the Krishna consciousness movement. And he did, you know, in the beginning, even before they opened the temple, they wanted to get some marble for the altar, and George arranged, he knew somebody who was dealing in marble, and he took Shyam Sundar, and they went and they bought some marble to put on the altar. So that was it. And then of course George gave the money for the Krishna book. You know, it's dealing with George Harrison is kind of like you're on the street and you sell a book to someone, maybe they give you a small donation, they give you 5 rupees or so, you give them a book. And wow, they gave me a book, they feel, oh, I only gave you 5 rupees, they give you another 20 rupees. And when they give you 20, you give them a bigger book. And when you give them a bigger book, he gives you 100 rupees, you know. You know, so like that, you know, people are affected, you know, when they feel some reciprocation. So the same way you saw George Harrison, you know, in the beginning, he bought a block of marble for the altar. Then he paid for the Krishna book. And next thing he bought Bhakti Vedanta Manor. He bought the huge estate, you know, with the house and the land and everything. So that's the loving reciprocation. Because you feel some gratitude, you feel some appreciation for what you're giving. So Prabhupada, of course, began the life membership program. When I was in India, I used to stay in Calcutta Temple. 1975, I came to India, so we were doing life membership. The membership fee was baiso bais, right? It used to be gara so gara. It had begun 1,111. Then it became 2,222. Nowadays, you want to be a life member, something like
35,
35, yeah.
35, 55.
Yeah, a lot of money, yeah. Yeah, so anyway, the life membership program, it was very important for us to make nice relationships with devotees. One of the devotees who used to make life members was Gargamuni Swami. He was a Swami. Now he gave up sannyas. He lives in Vrindavan. He's the younger brother of Brahmananda Swami. Anyway, he became known as Gargamuni. Became known as Gargamuni, not Gargamuni, because he was so successful in making life members. He knew how to cultivate the business community there in India. And he would do things like he'd bring ghee from America, and and people, wow, they really wanted this ghee from America. He'd tell them, this is from our cows in New Vrindavan, I'd give them presents like that. And in this way, people became very attached to him, and they would give everything. They'd make the whole family a life member, And Prabhupada would be very happy to see more and more members coming. So life membership, we were getting people to become a member of our society and to connect to the movement. And just becoming a member, that was just the initial stage. And gradually, by having nice relationships with people, they will help more and more. So, of course, that was the idea. And Prabhupada actually promised, he said that Prabhupada's thinking was the life members, that they will be given all of the books. As we bring out more books, we will give them the books. So initially, we didn't have many books. We had very few books. In the 1970s, we had very less books. I was in Calcutta Temple in 1977. Bhakti Charu Swami, at that time he was coming. He had not yet become a devotee. He was visiting the temple. And he was interested in our movement. And he said, could I have a book to read? So we had one copy of the Bhagavad Gita in the temple. One copy. All the books had come from the West, because in the 1970s it was very difficult to print books in India. You had to get a license, to get paper, very difficult. So anyway, we did not have many books. And we had one copy of the Bhagavad Gita, we brought it from the West. And so some devotees were saying, should we give this book? So I protested. I said, no, we can't give that. We need that book to give class. If we don't have a Bhagavad Gita, how can we give a class? So then we came up with a copy of the Nectar of Devotion. I said, okay, let's give him the Nectar of Devotion. It's a very good book. And he gave him the Nectar of Devotion, and he took the book home, and he read it from cover to cover. And he just loved the book. He said, so amazing, wonderful book. He immediately went to Mayapur and became a devotee. But books, Prabhupada wanted us to give the books to the member, and members would come. Some of them wanted all the books, and the temple have to think how to pay for it, they have to get the books. And people want the books. So it became challenging to give people. We were sending Back to Godhead magazines to members, and that's also quite a big expense, because Back to Godhead magazine, was printed in the USA, and it would sell in the USA, it'd be like a couple of dollars or something, So difficult for us to provide every month, Back to Godhead magazine. Somebody becomes a life member, and it can become a big expense all the time to maintain all the members, to give so many books. But Prabhupada wanted, let them have the books. if they want to read them, we don't mind, we're happy to get them to read the books. And often people who get the books after they've read them, or they don't want to give them back. Sometimes people come and give them back. Oh, okay, I don't, no room to keep them at home, you take them back. We can give them to someone else. So we have like a library, and people can come and get books from the library. But life members should also be allowed to go and stay in the temples. The temple should provide accommodation. That's a little difficult to give accommodation for everyone. Anyway, trying to satisfy everyone. Prabhupada wanted these things. We try, it's a bit easier in India than in foreign countries, you know. Other countries it's quite difficult to arrange everything. But we try to do what we can to help people, to keep people happy, to keep them favorable to ISKCON. Certainly these relationships are very important. People become a life member and they have expectations. So we try to do our best to keep them happy, keep them up, keep them satisfied. But it's a challenge, it's not easy. I don't know about here in Chennai. Are you still doing life membership here? I still do life membership. Some places they don't do it anymore, they've stopped doing it. They found it to be...
In terms of giving accommodation in many places.
Yeah, right, it becomes... Now you have a guest house, so sometimes the life members come. So, anyway, I think the agreement was that you could give them 3 days, right? 3 days, you can stay for 3 days. Places like, you know, if you're in places like Hong Kong, it's a bit difficult, you know. A place is very small to accommodate people. But we do invite people, come for prasadam. You're welcome, we can arrange prasadam for you. So we try to do that. According to our means, we try to help people. They need some help finding hotel proper, or we direct them to somewhere. Anyway, loving relationships, very important. And on Sankirtan, devotees also going out on book distribution. Sometimes devotees would be too enthusiastic, over-enthusiastic, and in trying to get people to take the book. And sometimes people would write to Prabhupada and complain. You know, I met one of your devotees and he forced me to purchase a book. So Srila Prabhupada told devotees, there was one devotee, he was called an incarnation of book distribution. He would distribute books to everyone, you know. So Prabhupada told him, he said, they should want to purchase the book. You should not force them. So, you know, that's the idea, you know. Nowadays, devotees, we do try to train the devotees a little better, that don't be too much over-enthusiastic to get people to take the book. We don't just want to get money from people. That's not the purpose. Although in the past, maybe the thinking was more like that, you know, the devotee could collect a lot of funds and he'd be considered, oh, very successful. He's a very good book distributor. But we want to make friends. Actually, we go out and distribute books. The idea is to introduce people to Krishna consciousness, and they should develop an appreciation for the devotees. And they should think that, oh, I met such nice people. I met this very nice person. And he showed me the book, and he told me all about it, and he told me they have a temple, and they have courses, and you can listen to everything. online even. So, we do want to be more conscious about PR, public relations, keeping nice relationships with the public. It's very important for us. At one point, some temples actually stopped book distribution because they thought it's just damaging our relationship with the public. Because people thought you're just always out there, you want money from people all the time, you're taking money, and that's not really quite the mood which we want to present for Krishna consciousness. We do want people to read the books, however, and we do feel book distribution is very important for us. Srila Prabhupada described book distribution as our family business. So just like have a business, the family has, you want, all the family should take part. So Prabhupada said everyone in our society, they should learn how to distribute books. It's important for us, and it's an opportunity for us to talk about Krishna and to tell people about Krishna. So it's a very nice activity. It's actually a spiritual activity to go out there and to give somebody a book about Krishna. And it's the most satisfying, pleasing experience to give a book to someone and to see that they read it and they may even become a devotee. You just feel so happy that, wow, I helped somebody to become a devotee. So book distribution is very important. Of course, at this time, devotees are out there everywhere in the country, especially in India. I'm seeing a lot of devotees going out on book distribution every day, and big numbers of books are being distributed. We do need to encourage the devotees, don't be too much over enthusiastic just to collect funds. But the motive is make relationships, nice, loving dealings with people, and try to help them to take an interest in Krishna consciousness, introduce them to our books. So this is an important thing in loving relationships. We do have to be careful. Especially in the USA, in Srila Prabhupada's time, devotees could be a little over-enthused. And devotees, they would distribute books. At one point, the major place, one of the bigger places for book distribution was in the airport. And devotees would be in the airports in the USA and distribute books there. So airports are very passionate places, To be in an airport, it's not an easy place. People are all tense, you've got to check in your baggage, maybe you're overweight, then you have to go through security, all of these different things you have to do in the airport, people do get very tense. But devotees were going there and distributing books, and they would do a lot of books there in the airport. But sometimes, of course, sometimes you make enemies. And we don't want to make enemies, we do need to make friends, that's important. The success of our preaching is how many people you can give a favorable impression about Krishna consciousness. So these are some issues which coming up in our Krishna consciousness movement. Nowadays, book distribution is, in India, it's certainly going on well because of the economic development in India. So people also have a more, naturally they're Hindu, so they have a greater interest in the Krishna consciousness literature. Other parts of the world, it's a challenge, but still it goes on. We published the French Srimad Bhagavatam, the whole Srimad Bhagavatam in French, and a good number of sets of Srimad Bhagavatam were issued. We have the Srimad Bhagavatam in Chinese, and we're bringing out also the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Adi Lila is already published. This month they're publishing the Madhya Lila in Chinese. You know, so things are going on. You know, the books are coming out, being translated. They have even an Arabic Bhagavad Gita. And so many things are taking place. We try to encourage people, keep your faith in Krishna consciousness. And the loving relationships are very important. They do help a lot for people. Okay, any questions? Anyone has any comments or questions? Any experiences, nasty experiences or good experiences in loving relationships? You know, sometimes Devamrita Swami was telling how one of his relatives went to the temple one time, and it was afternoon. The temple was closed, and he knocked on the door, and they just yelled out through the door, "Go away, come back when the temple's open." You know? And he said the person who was coming was actually coming to give some very important help, you know, but he got told, "Go away, come back when the temple's open." So sometimes these things happen, you know. We do have to be careful about guests coming to temple, receiving guests, you know, it's important. Taking care of the visitors. Places like Mayapur, where you get thousands of people coming in a day, it's quite difficult. But still, they do have a number of devotees who are sitting there preaching all day, giving lectures in the Bengali language and so on. Every morning after Mangal Arti in Mayapur, they'll give out the beads to everyone and we'll get people to come and chant. So,
here also in Chennai, Maharaj, I think whoever comes to the temple, they are encouraged, the devotees approach, give them an opportunity to chant one round. After they chant one round, if they like, they give a card for 1 month. You can chant and they call this number and update. And then so that kind of a program is on here.
Yeah, good. Yes, something is going on. I saw that. Yeah, you have the Japa zone.
Yeah.
Nice. And someone's there the whole day as well to introduce people to chanting Hare Krishna. Very nice.
Maharaj is just not giving a class. Last night we had His Grace Mukunda Datta Prabhu, and I came to know about Maharaj coming to Chennai at the last minute. I didn't know earlier. Last night, Veer Gaur Prabhu, the guest house in charge, sends me a message. This is to show how Maharaj is carrying. This is from Veer Gaur Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. His Holiness Bhakti Vigna Vinash Nrsimha Maharaj is asking about you, Tulsi Prabhu, and his wife also. Then I told Maharaj, he may be coming in the morning tomorrow. What does Maharaj to do with me? Okay, and he's inquiring about me in the night, and then after I saw the message in the morning. So that is a practical application of how he deals with the devotees. Maharaj is a big Hari Om, please.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So very nice to see so many of you could come here tonight. Give me an opportunity to say a few words and to think more about loving relationships. You know, we need to always be thinking how to care more for the devotees. Certainly. I know many of my senior god brothers also, they care a lot about the devotees, and they will sacrifice a lot of their time just to sit and talk and to hear from devotees, to be with devotees. It's very important for us that we're persons, we're all persons, and we want to have personal relationships. And these relationships should be very satisfying in Krishna consciousness. If we're not satisfied, then something is lacking. So we do want to keep people happy in Krishna consciousness movement. We're so fortunate here in Chennai. You have the wonderful temple. You have the most gorgeous deities. They're beautifully dressed, very nice, very pleasing. And the temple is in a nice quiet area. It's also, it's not noisy, bustling area. It's a peaceful, quiet place. Certainly it's wonderful to have the temple there. Of course, Chennai is a bustling city, and there's a lot of people here in the city. Not so many people come out there to the temple. So we do have to try to have more programs in the city itself and expanding the preaching, outreach preaching. And Trivandrum, Jagat Shakshi Prabhu has 18 centers in Trivandrum. And the center means, they have a place, maybe a household or couple are looking after a place, or it may even be their own home. They're having a program in their own home, or they may have somewhere, some kind of place which they're renting, or somebody else's home they're using, and they have a program once a week, so for most temples, it's only on the weekend when people are coming. Everybody's so busy, Monday to Friday, and Saturday sometimes, but anyway, on the weekend, people come to temples more. So you have programs like that on the weekends. Difficult for people to come far away, so if we can have more programs in the city, it's better.
For your Prashur Maharaj, the direction of the Bhanuswami Maharaj and Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, or the GBCs of the zone, to have more such centers here. And this is a place called T Nagar. Maybe you have been here. It's a Burkit Road, is in a neighboring street where we had a temple for 20 plus years. And some 500 meters from there, we have been blessed to have a weekend program in the sense that a marriage hall is being had every weekend. And that's where we've started gathering. But we have a long way to go. All the wonderful devotees here are making that effort to make it happen. So every Saturday we meet between 5:30 and say 5 and 8 or something, every weekend. We have started a program here.
Oh, very nice.
There are many such programs in the city.
Yeah.
This is one.
Okay. Yeah, I visited T Nagar. I've been there, of course,
Yes.
long ago. That's convenient in the city,
Yes.
but it's not. If you have a nice temple, you need to be a bit further out of the city naturally. But being out of the city, of course, then it's difficult for people to come, to get the public to come. Still, people are coming. I see every day people there. Last night, Sandhya Arti, I saw quite a nice number of people there. Must have been 100 people there. Mongol Arti, of course, you don't get too many people coming there. Mongol Arti, a bit difficult. But Mayapur being a place of pilgrimage, it's a bit different. People travel all night to come there to Mayapur. Vrindavan also, Mongol Arti, they open the doors and the flood, big crush of people coming in. Mayapur and Vrindavan, difficult to get in the temple. So many people. So anyway, Kirtan Mela is coming. Chennai is very nice. You have an opportunity to attract more people to come. We hope that devotees will come more to the temple. Kirtan Mela. People like kirtan. You always get, people coming for kirtan. The youth especially are very fond of kirtan. As soon as you say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, it's a go to sleep time, But kirtan, something people, they really like. They really get into it. So, kirtan melas are popular. I know even in China, devotees are able to have kirtan mela. They're able to do kirtan. But philosophy classes, more difficult. So certainly, it's nice. We want to do these things, encourage people more and more to get involved in Krishna consciousness, and it's certainly easier for them to get involved in kirtan. Everyone can chant the holy name. So this is Lord Chaitanya's movement, to make it easy for everyone, chanting. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Our gratitude to Maharaj by loudly chanting
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama